Hi, a very warm welcome to Dusty Shelf Collectibles. Well, today we're talking about this little red loco. So I've actually got several of these in the green with the GWR on the side, the 060 locos with the pannier tanks on there. And sort of train fair, I forget which one it was, a couple of weeks ago, looking through the second-hand stalls, and I spotted this one in red, and I thought to myself, well, I've never actually seen one of these in red. I didn't know much about it, so I picked it up, saw it was £12, thought, well, that's not bad. I realised quickly why it's £12, which is there's no motor in there, but generally in good condition. Got the separately fitted handrails around here. You can see one of the little features on the other side there, that's missing, that's a shame, but it's still got the whistles on there, and it's not in bad condition. There's a coupling missing on the front there, but that can easily be replaced. And I thought, well, for 12 quid, I've not seen one before, I don't know if it's rare, I don't know if it's collectible, but it's worth a punt. And I know that I've got lots of different motors in my scrap box, so I thought, well, I can easily put a motor in it. So there you go. Now, having got this home and completed a little bit of research into it, this loco was only released in 1993, and it was only for 1 year in red. And indeed, here's the catalogue from 1993. That's the front of it, and you can see just here, there's the loco. And what I was hoping was to open the catalogue and it would tell me all about the crest on here and the livery and everything. And actually it tells me absolutely nothing. So this is R073, a red 060 PT locomotive. And it says the livery is designed to add some brightness to the layout. The model has the SSPP drive system, don't know what that means, with tied centre wheels and sprung rear axle. And over here you can see the private owner on there. So this is, I assume this is some kind of made up livery. Number 5 on the side with a crest. Just a made up livery, and again to put a bit of brightness on your layout. And only came out for 1 year, so I'm assuming it wasn't particularly popular. PT, I'm assuming standing for pannier tank maybe. Somebody else might know what that means, but anyway, I grabbed this loco, as I say, 12 quid. What can possibly go wrong? So plan today, drop the lid off, have a look what's inside, see if we can fit a motor in there, and yeah, try and get this back on the rails and back running again. Right, first thing I'm going to do is get rid of my brand new piece of card before I start taking anything apart, and get sort of a working piece of card that's a little bit rough around the edges. Right, let's get the body off of this. I think these just unclip, so from the rear I believe, that's it. Right, so yeah, indeed, no motor in there, no pickups. So let's have a look at this motor here. Right, that's clearly not what I expected, the motor in there. So I'm actually going to have to go and find the service sheet for this one, because that's quite a small motor in there. I think that's even smaller than some of the other motors that I've got. So let me just pop off for a minute, and I'll go and print out a service sheet and see what we've got. Right, it's actually one of these little square motors with a plastic cap that fits over the top. So I don't have any of those, so I am going to have to spend some money on this. Probably best bet is to go and have a look on, well, I'll start with Peter's Spares, and then I'll work my way through till eventually I'll get to eBay, and hopefully I'll be able to find a motor and possibly this plastic bit. And yeah, we can come back to this, and should be quite an easy repair just to drop those two bits in. The wheels actually look pretty clean, there's nothing really much to do to it, so it's just a case of getting the motor and dropping it in there, and then giving it a run. So let me go and see if I can get the parts. Well, about a week later, and parts have just arrived. So motor, as you can see there, a little square one. Now I had to buy a new one of these. I couldn't find one second hand or used, so this has actually cost me £10. And then this little contraption, this looks like a second hand one, but I bought 2 of these for a £5, so this is £2.50. So keeping a sort of tally of what I've spent on this: £12 for the engine, £10 for the motor, so that's, you know, £22, plus this, let's say £25.50, which isn't too bad for a loco, assuming I can get this working. So next step is dropping this in here. Now, having read up on these chassis a little bit more, the connection between this top part here and as this drops in, let me just show you, it drops into the plastic like so, and at the top here the 2 bits of copper make a contact, and by all accounts it's not very reliable. So I actually, with this motor, I'm going to solder a couple of wires on here and just make sure I've got really strong contacts. So if I take a wire from here, solder it onto the top here, then I can guarantee that that's making contact all the time. And then likewise with this, I should take a wire from the lower or the negative side of the motor, which would normally sit on the chassis like so, and just make a connection there. And I should take that wire right the way forward and drop it into the screw hole in the front of the loco. So hopefully it should be quite robust. So let me get a couple of bits of wire and yeah, let's solder those on there. Right, my soldering iron's just warming up. Just going to cut this back a little bit. Right, that's those two wires tucked onto there. So now if I thread this wire up through the top of the plastic like so, this should now, I'll just bend that forward, that tab forward a little bit. This should now drop in to the plastic housing, hopefully. That's it. Which means I can now bring that wire forward onto here, and then the other wire I can bring over the top of the motor to screw in at the front. Right. Cut that wire a little bit too short, but never mind. I'm sure it'll be fine. Okay, this is just a flux pen. Just put a bit of flux on there, help the solder. Let's give that another go. Don't know why the solder's not taking to that. Let's give it a clean. It's clearly not liking it. That's better. It's taken now. Right. Okay, I've got a little screw to fit into there, so that's good. Right, so let's get this mounted in. So I think it hooks, in fact I'm pretty sure it hooks at the rear here. Is that right? Yeah. So it hooks in there and the front pushes right down with the pickups either side there. Don't know what that bit's for. Let's take that out of the way for a minute. Good. So I'm going to bring this up wire over and create a loop. Just going to solder that together. Okay. Right, let's get it assembled. This has got a hook down under there. That's it. And that comes down on top of there like that. Make sure my pickups are on the wheels. This is then going to come around the side over the hole. the loop too small. So let's stretch it. That's perfect. Okay. This goes onto there, and this just pushes down into the chassis. Let's do that up. Okay, motor's in. Let's go and give it a run. Well, it didn't go quite to plan when I came over here. The little screw that I'd put in here hadn't picked up on the thread, so I've had to change that over. So the motor lifted and the worm gear was just spinning. Second thing was, I was getting a short just here. Remember when I was assembling this, I took that little piece of tubing off, wondering what it was for. Well, it's actually an insulation point for the chassis. So now, if I put some power on, quite a noisy loco, but it's certainly running okay. So, nice little repair there. As I say, £25 spent, and time to get the body on and give it a good run around the layout. Right, so one final job, just switch this coupling over. I've got a replacement plastic one here so it matches the rest of the loco. I did originally pick up a metal one, but again out of the scrap box. So this technically hasn't cost me anything. Drop that on there, and then the body, two at the front here. Just going to make sure that I get this all compressed down so that it doesn't short. Okay. Right, body back on, so let's just give it a little movement backwards and forwards. Quite noisy, but I guess that's the period of the loco. They're all a bit noisy back then, weren't they? But anyway, gone back together, lovely little runner, so let's get it on the layout. And well, first of all, let's talk around the history of the loco, and then let's get it on the layout and give it a run. The Class 2721 was designed by William Dean, and 80 were built at the Great Western Railway's Swindon Works between 1897 and 1901. The 47-ton loco was used mainly for shunting and light mixed traffic use. The Class 2721 were originally built with saddle tanks and the open cab, but later changed to pannier tanks, such as the model. It was this configuration that is considered the predecessor of the 5XX class of loco, of which many more were built. The withdrawal of Class 2721 commenced in 1945 and completed in 1950. So unfortunately I've had a look, but I can't find one of these locos in preservation, so I'm sure somebody will correct me if there is one out there, so please do let me know in the comments. I'm led to believe a few of the locos were painted in different colours other than the sort of standard GWR green or black, but I'm pretty sure the red of the model is purely fictitious, and in Hornby's own words back in the 1993 catalogue, a way to brighten your layout. So I mentioned again the loco was released in 1993, and it was only released for 1 year with a production run of approximately 1,200. So as I've mentioned in a couple of previous videos, is this a collector's item? I'm not sure. I mean, basically, you know, 1,200 is not a particularly small number of locos, but then compared to the other locos of the other Class 2721s that Hornby have produced over the years, I mean, they're in the tens of thousands. So yeah, I guess this one is a little bit rarer than those, but it's not a great colour, it's not particularly good looker, and having had a look, they're kind of reaching prices somewhere between £20 and £50. So with its kind of strange livery, Really, this is really one for the Hornby collector. You know, if you are collecting Hornby locos, this is one that was out there. It was only there for a year, and probably one to look out for. And just to close this piece out, because I haven't mentioned it, the catalogue number is R073A. Well, there you go, a little bit of footage of the loco going around on the layout, and I managed to put the other GWR loco that I've got on there just a double head with a couple of carriages, just for the fun of it, no other reason, just because I could. And yeah, they did look good going around. Now, I appreciate the livery's not to everybody's cup of tea, and as Hornby said, you know, this is intended to brighten up your layout, and personally I feel certainly did. Looking at it going round, it did actually look quite good on there, and yeah, for me, I actually like it. I think it looks pretty good. Now, going back to the collector's comment, this loco, 1 year, 1,200 units, this is actually, you know, less than some of Hornby's limited editions that they do more recently. So, quite a rarity, I guess, and I don't know how many of these would have survived. You know, this is, what, 20, 30 years old, and, yeah, how many of these are still around? So, I think it is technically a bit of a collector's item. It's never going to be great in value, but if you are a Hornby collector and you collect the Hornby locos, you know, this is one of the rarer ones, I think. Somebody will obviously correct me if I'm wrong there, but I believe it is. I certainly hadn't seen one before, and my eye went straight to it because I wondered what it was, not being sure that it was a Hornby to start with, actually. Obviously, I've seen the black versions and the green versions for the GWR livery, but not in this red. Now, the other point I wanted to make is people are saying that the hobby is just getting so expensive and people are being priced out of the hobby. And I do tend to agree with that on some of the newer locos. But these locos are still out here. I mean, I paid £12 for this. I put a £10 motor in it. I put a £2.50 pickup. I think I said 25 quid at the time. It's obviously £24.50. But for £24.50, this is a lot of loco for that amount of money. And it'd look especially good on a beginner's layout. A really strong runner as well. I've had it running around on the layout for probably half an hour. Hasn't really skipped a beat, came off on one of the points just for a little bit. And, you know, as I said before, it's in beautiful condition with the separate fitted handrails. It's just missing this little piece on the other side, which is a shame. But other than that, not a blemish on the loco. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up there. If you've enjoyed the video, please do give it a thumbs up. And if you do check out the channel, if you can subscribe, I'd be very, very grateful. Really makes my day to see new subscribers, and it really does help the channel out. And with that, I think we'll wrap this one up there. I'll say thank you ever so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.